chosen one. Something has just shifted in the unseen realm, and this moment was written long before you arrived here. This is not random. This is a divine, not coincidence. This is a divine interruption, an appointed encounter where heaven is calling your attention, because something about your identity can no longer remain hidden. Anointed One, you have carried a feeling your entire life that you could never fully explain. A quiet knowing that you were different, set apart, unable to fully belong to the patterns of this world. That tension was not confusion, it was memory. Your spirit has been trying to remind you of who you truly are. You were not born into limitation. You were not created to live beneath your calling. You were placed here hidden for a time, prepared in silence, refined through pressure. Just as Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 declares, there is a time for every purpose under heaven, and your time of revelation is now. This is the moment where what was concealed begins to surface, where the identity buried beneath struggle begins to rise, where the bloodline within you begins to awaken. If this message found you, it is because you are ready. Stay with me, chosen one, because what you are about to remember will change everything. Chosen one. The moment you begin to accept that you were never ordinary, something inside you starts to resist, and that resistance is not weakness. It is the final layer of what tried to keep you asleep. Because if you were truly meant to remain small, you would never have felt this tension. You would have blended in, moved with the crowd, chased what everyone else was chasing. But that was never your path, and deep down, you have always known it. Anointed One. There were moments in your life where everything felt confusing, where your environment did not reflect your spirit, where the people around you could not understand your depth, where your questions were met with silence or dismissal. You tried to explain yourself, tried to adjust, tried to fit into spaces that felt unnatural, but something within you kept resisting. That resistance was not rebellion. It was recognition. It was the part of you that refused to forget where you came from. There is a reason your journey has felt heavier than others, a reason you have carried responsibilities, emotions, and awareness that seemed beyond your years. A reason why, even in moments of joy, there was still a quiet voice inside asking, is this really all there is? That question was never meant to be answered by the world. It was meant to lead you back to your identity. Because you were not just placed here to survive cycles of routine and distraction. You were placed here carrying something encoded within you, a divine imprint, a royal assignment, a spiritual inheritance that could not be taught, only awakened. And awakening does not happen in comfort, it happens in tension. It happens in the moments when life does not make sense, when doors close without explanation, when relationships shift without warning, when you find yourself standing alone, wondering why everything familiar is falling away. You have been in that place. You have watched people drift away. You have experienced situations where you gave your loyalty, your time, your energy, and still found yourself misunderstood. You have questioned why things did not work out the way they should have, why certain paths collapsed just as you were beginning to trust them. But look at it now, from where you stand. What if those moments were not losses but separations? What if you were not being rejected but redirected? Because royalty is never raised in environments that cannot sustain its identity. There are spaces you were removed from, not because you failed, but because you did not belong there in the first place. And your spirit knew it before your mind could accept it. This is the part many do not talk about. The hidden phase. The season where everything feels uncertain, where you are stripped of false attachments, where you are forced to stand without the support systems you once relied on. It feels like isolation, but it is actually alignment. Isaiah chapter 60 verse 1 speaks of rising and shining when your light has come, but what is often not understood is that before that rising there is a separating, a pulling away from what dims your light, so that what is within you can be seen clearly. That is the season you've been walking through. And it was never random. You were being trained to recognize your value without needing validation. You were being taught to hear divine direction without the noise of external opinions. You were being positioned to stand in authority not based on titles or recognition, but on identity. Because the truth is, chosen one, your inheritance is not something the world hands to you. It is something you step into, and stepping into it requires you to release everything that contradicts it. That is why certain relationships had to end. That is why certain opportunities never fully opened. That is why some environments felt suffocating no matter how much you tried to make them work. You were never meant to build your life in places that could not recognize who you are becoming. And now something is shifting. You may have noticed it already. A change in how you see things. A clarity that was not there before. A growing inability to tolerate what once felt normal. Conversations feel different. Environments feel different. Even your own thoughts feel different. This is not confusion. This is alignment beginning. You are starting to see through what no longer belongs in your life. You are beginning to sense what is truly for you and what is not. And while that clarity can feel uncomfortable, it is necessary. Because you cannot step into a royal identity while holding on to a common mindset. There is a shift happening in how you carry yourself, even if others have not fully noticed yet. You are less willing to explain yourself. Less willing to chase approval, less willing to shrink your presence just to make others comfortable. That is not pride. That is awakening. And as this awakening deepens, you will begin to understand something even more important: why everything you went through had to happen exactly the way it did. But before that understanding becomes clear, there is one truth you must face, one truth that will determine whether you fully step into your inheritance or remain standing at the edge of it. Because not everyone who is called will choose to rise. And what you're about to realize next will reveal which one you are. There comes a moment, chosen one, when knowing who you are is no longer enough. You must decide if you will live as that truth or continue negotiating with a version of yourself that was never real. Because awareness without action becomes a burden. You begin to see clearly yet remain surrounded by what no longer fits. You recognize your worth yet still feel the pull of old patterns. You sense your calling yet hesitate at the doorway of transformation. This tension you feel right now, this stretching within your spirit, is not confusion. It is the space between who you were taught to be and who you were always meant to become. And this is where many turn back. Not because they are incapable, but because stepping fully into identity requires letting go of familiarity. It requires releasing versions of yourself that were built for survival, not for purpose. It asks you to walk forward without needing constant reassurance to trust what you cannot yet fully see. Anointed one. There were seasons where you adapted just to get through. You learned to read people, to adjust your voice, to dim certain parts of yourself, so you would not stand out too much. You became skilled at navigating environments that were never designed for your spirit. And in those seasons, it made sense. It protected you. It allowed you to endure. But what once protected you can no longer define you, because the same patterns that helped you survive will now limit your expansion. You may have noticed this already. Situations where you once would have stayed silent now feel unbearable. Places that once felt acceptable now feel heavy. Conversations that used to hold your attention now feel empty before they even begin. It is not that the world has changed, it is that you have. And when you change, everything that no longer aligns begins to reveal itself. This is where your authority begins to form. Not in loud declarations, not in outward performance, but in quiet decisions. The decision to no longer entertain what drains you. The decision to walk away without needing closure from those who could never understand you. The decision to trust your inner knowing, even when it contradicts what others expect from you. This is how identity becomes embodied. It is not announced, it is lived. And as you begin to live, something remarkable starts to happen. You stop chasing what was never assigned to you. You stop forcing doors that were never meant to open. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to walk with you. Instead, you begin to align, and alignment carries a different kind of power. It is not loud, but it is undeniable. It is not rushed, but it is precise. It moves without struggle, not because there are no challenges, but because you are no longer resisting your own design. You start to notice subtle shifts. Opportunities appear without you searching for them. Conversations begin to carry meaning instead of confusion. You find yourself in the right place at moments that feel almost orchestrated. What once felt distant begins to move closer, not because you chased it, but because you finally matched it. This is where many misunderstand the idea of inheritance. They expect it to arrive externally as something given, something handed over, something visible and immediate. But true inheritance reveals itself through alignment first. It shows up as clarity before it shows up as provision. It manifests as peace before it manifests as increase. And when it comes with responsibility. Because what is being prepared for you is not just for you. There is a reason your journey required depth, a reason you were not satisfied with surface-level living, a reason why even in moments of success, something inside you kept searching for meaning. You are not being positioned for temporary gain. You are being prepared to carry something that requires wisdom, discernment, and restraint. This is where divine provision begins to shift from concept to reality, not as sudden excess, but as precise supply. You will notice that what you need begins to meet you at the exact moment you are ready to steward it, not too early where it could overwhelm you, not too late where it could delay your movement, but right on time, aligned with your growth, aligned with your capacity, aligned with your assignment. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 speaks of everything being made beautiful in its time, and what you are stepping into now is that timing becoming visible. What once felt delayed is now being aligned. What once felt withheld is now being prepared. And what once felt confusing is now beginning to make sense. But here is the truth. Chosen one alignment will cost you something. It will cost you the need to be understood by everyone. It will cost you the comfort of staying where you have outgrown. It will cost you the illusion that you can carry both your old identity and your true one at the same time. You cannot. At some point, you must choose. And that choice is not made in a single moment. It is made in small decisions repeated consistently. It is made when you choose peace over validation, when you choose purpose over comfort, when you choose truth over familiarity. This is how your life begins to transform, not all at once, but in layers. And as these layers fall away, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time: lightness. A sense that you are no longer carrying what was never yours to begin with. A sense that your steps are becoming clearer, your thoughts more focused, your direction more certain. You begin to move differently, not rushed, not pressured, not driven by fear, but guided. And this guidance will lead you into spaces that match your identity, not your past. It will connect you with people who recognize your value without needing explanation. It will position you in moments that confirm you're exactly where you are meant to be. But before those connections fully form, before those doors fully open, there is one more layer that must be released, because there is still something subtle, something deeply rooted that tries to pull you back into hesitation. And until that is exposed, you will feel the pull between stepping forward and holding back. There is a deeper layer beneath everything you have already begun to understand, chosen one, and it is more subtle than fear, more hidden than doubt, yet it has quietly influenced so many of your decisions. It is the memory of limitation, not a conscious thought, not something you actively chose, but something that was slowly formed through experiences, through environments, through moments where your power was misunderstood, dismissed, or even rejected. Over time, a pattern was built not to destroy you but to contain you. And even now, as you awaken, that pattern still tries to whisper. It shows up in hesitation when clarity is already present. It shows up in overthinking when your spirit has already decided. It shows up in the need to be sure before moving, even when everything within you is already aligned. Anointed One. This is not weakness. This is residue. It is what remains from seasons where you had to question yourself in order to survive, where trusting your instincts may have led to conflict, where standing fully in who you are may have isolated you even further. So you learn to pause, to measure, to hold back just enough to stay safe. But you are no longer in that season, and what once protected you is now the very thing that delays you. You may have felt this tension recently, moments where you know what to do, yet something inside pulls you back just slightly. Not enough to stop you completely, but enough to slow you down enough to make you reconsider what has already been revealed to you. This is the final refinement of your identity. Because stepping into who you are is not only about gaining clarity, it is about releasing the need to question that clarity. There comes a point where you must trust what has been formed within you through everything you have endured. Every experience, every challenge, every moment of solitude has been building something in you that cannot be taught externally. A discernment, a sensitivity, a knowing that operates beyond logic. And yet, because it does not always follow predictable patterns, you have sometimes doubted it. But consider this, chosen one. How many times has your intuition been right before your circumstances confirmed it? How many times did you sense something was off, only to later see the truth revealed? How many times were you guided away from something that seemed good on the surface, but would have cost you more than you realized? That was never coincidence. That was alignment, trying to guide you before your mind could fully understand. And now, that same guidance is becoming stronger. You are beginning to sense direction without needing full explanation. You are beginning to feel when something is for you and when it is not, even before it fully unfolds. You're beginning to recognize the difference between what looks right and what is right. This is where your authority deepens. Because authority is not just about knowing who you are, it is about trusting that knowing without constant validation. And as you begin to trust it, something shifts in how you move. You no longer wait for everything to make sense before taking a step. You no longer require every detail before you begin. You move with a quiet certainty, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the direction you are being led. This is how divine timing begins to accelerate in your life, because hesitation slows what alignment is trying to release. And when you remove that hesitation, when you begin to move in agreement with what you already know, things begin to open in ways that feel almost immediate. You will notice it. Decisions that once felt heavy become clear. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to appear within reach. Conversations that once felt uncertain begin to align naturally. It is not because everything around you has suddenly changed. It is because you are no longer resisting the flow that was already there. This is where provision begins to meet you differently. Not as something you chase, but as something that responds. Because when identity and action align, there is no longer a gap between what is meant for you and what you are able to receive. But here is what must be understood. Anointed One. This level of alignment requires consistency. It is not a single decision. It is a way of moving. There will still be moments where the old patterns try to return. Moments where hesitation tries to reintroduce itself, where overthinking tries to take control, where you feel the urge to slow down what you already know is right. And in those moments, the question will not be whether you are capable. The question will be whether you are willing to trust yourself fully. Because partial trust creates partial movement, and partial movement delays full alignment. This is why many remain close to their calling, but never fully step into it. Not because they are unworthy, but because they have not yet released the need to constantly confirm what has already been revealed. But you are moving beyond that now. You are entering a space where your decisions carry more weight, where your alignment carries more impact, where your presence begins to shift environments without effort. Not because you are trying to control anything, but because you are finally in agreement with who you are. And when you are in agreement with your identity, everything else begins to follow. You will begin to notice how certain things no longer require force. How what once felt difficult now feels natural. How what once seemed out of reach now feels inevitable. This is not luck. This is alignment reaching maturity. And as it matures, it will begin to reveal something even greater than clarity, even greater than direction. It will begin to reveal the level of responsibility that comes with who you are becoming, because stepping into your inheritance is not just about receiving. It is about carrying. And what you are about to realize next will change how you see everything that is coming into your life. What begins to unfold at this stage? Chosen One is not just an increase in clarity or movement, it is a shift in weight. Not a burden placed upon you, but a recognition of what you now carry. Because once you truly see who you are, you can no longer move carelessly. There is a difference between being aware of your identity and honoring it with your life. And this is where many feel the intensity rise. Not because something is going wrong, but because something is being entrusted. Anointed One. You may have started to notice that your sensitivity has increased. You feel things more deeply now. You discern intentions more quickly. You sense when something is aligned and when it is not, even in subtle ways others might overlook. This is not overwhelming you, it is equipping you. Because what you carry requires awareness. You were never meant to move blindly. You were meant to move with precision. And precision requires presence. This is why distractions that once held your attention now feel almost unbearable. You cannot entertain what numbs you the way you once did. You cannot engage in conversations that drain you without purpose. You cannot ignore what your spirit is showing you just to maintain comfort. Something within you has shifted beyond that. And that shift is the beginning of stewardship. Because inheritance is not just about what comes to you, it is about what flows through you. You are not being positioned to simply receive blessings. You are being positioned to manage them, to direct them, to use them in alignment with something greater than yourself. This is why your preparation required depth, why your journey was not built on shortcuts or surface-level understanding. You were being trained to carry weight without collapsing under it. This is where divine provision begins to take on a new meaning. It is no longer about getting more, it is about being trusted with more. And trust is not given randomly. It is developed through consistency, through character, through the quiet decisions no one else sees. It is built in the moments where you choose integrity, when it would be easier to compromise, where you choose patience, when you could rush, where you choose alignment, even when it costs you something. You have been building that trust, even when you did not realize it. Every time you walked away from what was not right for you, you were building it. Every time you remained steady when things felt uncertain, you were building it. Every time you chose growth over comfort, you were building it. And now that foundation is beginning to support something greater. You may feel it as a shift in expectation, not from others, but from within yourself. You are no longer satisfied with just getting by. You are no longer willing to live beneath what you know you are capable of. There is a quiet standard rising within you, not based on comparison, not based on pressure, but based on identity. You are beginning to expect more from your own life. And that expectation is not ego, it is alignment. Because when you know who you are, you can no longer accept what contradicts it. This is also where boundaries begin to solidify. Not forced, not defensive, but natural. You begin to say no without over-explaining. You begin to protect your time without guilt. You begin to choose environments that match your energy instead of adapting to ones that diminish it. This is not distance, this is refinement. Because you are no longer available for everything. You are only available for what aligns. And as you continue to move this way, something else begins to happen, something that may feel unfamiliar at first. You begin to stand out. Not because you are trying to be seen, but because alignment cannot be hidden. People will begin to notice the difference in how you carry yourself. The way you speak, the way you decide, the way you move with quiet certainty. Some will be drawn to it, others will question it, some may even resist it, but none of that changes what is happening within you. Because this transformation was never dependent on external approval, it was always internal. And with this visibility comes another layer of responsibility: discernment. Not everyone who approaches you is meant to walk with you. Not every opportunity that appears is meant to be accepted. Not every open door is meant to be entered. This is why your sensitivity had to increase, so you could distinguish between what is aligned and what only appears to be. Because as you rise, not everything that comes toward you is coming with the right intention. And your ability to discern will protect what you are building. You will begin to recognize patterns more quickly. You will sense when something feels rushed, when something feels forced, when something does not carry the same peace you have come to recognize. And you will trust that, because peace is no longer optional for you. It is confirmation. This is where your life begins to take on a different rhythm. Not driven by urgency, not driven by pressure, but guided by alignment. You move when it is time to move. You pause when it is time to pause. You release when it is time to release. And you hold steady when it is time to remain. This rhythm is what sustains what is being built in your life. Because what is coming is not temporary. It is meant to last. And anything that is meant to last must be built with intention. That is why this phase feels different. It is not about proving anything anymore. It is about becoming consistent in who you already are. And as this consistency strengthens, as your alignment becomes stable, as your discernment becomes sharper, something begins to open that cannot be forced. A level of access to opportunities, to connections, to resources, to insight that were not available to you before, not because they did not exist, but because you were not yet positioned to hold them. Now you are. And as that access begins to reveal itself, you will come face to face with something that requires even deeper clarity. Because not everything you can access is what you are meant to carry. And this is where the path becomes even more refined, chosen one, because access without discernment can lead you away just as quickly as limitation once held you back. Not everything that opens before you is meant to be embraced. Some things are invitations to test your clarity. Some doors appear because you are now visible, not because they are aligned. And this is why your growth has required depth, not just elevation. Anointed One, there is a difference between opportunity and assignment. Opportunity can look appealing. It can feel rewarding. It can even seem like progress, but assignment carries peace, carries confirmation, carries a quiet certainty that does not need to be rushed or proven. You will begin to sense this difference more clearly now. There will be moments where something looks right, sounds right, even feels like what you have been waiting for, but something within you remains still. Not fearful, not uncertain, just unmoved. That stillness is not hesitation. It is protection. Because when you are aligned, your spirit will not be pressured into what is not meant for you. This is where maturity reveals itself. Not in how much you can take on, but in what you are willing to decline. There will be things that once would have excited you, things that in earlier seasons you would have pursued without question, but now they no longer carry the same weight. And you will have to trust that. Because your inheritance is not found in accumulation, it's found in alignment. This is where divine provision begins to distinguish itself from distraction. Provision will meet you with clarity, with timing, with a sense of ease that does not require you to compromise who you are. Distraction will come with urgency, with pressure, with the feeling that you must act quickly or lose something important. But what is meant for you does not require urgency to secure it. It requires alignment to receive it. You are stepping into a space where patience becomes power, where waiting is no longer seen as delay but as positioning, where you understand that not moving prematurely is just as important as moving at the right time. This is where Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 begins to make sense in a deeper way, that the vision is for an appointed time, and though it may seem to delay, it is not denying you, it is preparing you. You have already experienced what happens when things move too quickly without alignment. You have seen how situations that began with excitement ended in confusion. How connections that seemed promising revealed themselves over time to be misaligned. How opportunities that looked right on the surface carried a cost beneath them that you were not meant to pay. But now you see differently. You are no longer drawn by appearance alone. You are guided by resonance. And resonance cannot be faked. It is either there or it is not. This is why your circle may feel smaller. This is why your focus may feel sharper. This is why your time feels more valuable than ever before, because you are no longer available for what does not carry meaning. You are no longer investing energy into what does not align with your assignment. And while this may feel like restriction at times, it is actually expansion in its purest form. Because by releasing what is not meant for you, you are creating space for what is. And what is coming into that space will not require you to shrink. It will require you to stand fully. This is where your identity begins to stabilize, not fluctuating based on circumstances, not shifting based on opinions, but grounded. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And you know what you are no longer willing to entertain. This level of clarity will begin to shape everything. The way you make decisions, the way you interact with others, the way you approach opportunities, the way you protect your energy. And as this clarity becomes consistent, something begins to happen that cannot be forced. You begin to attract differently, not by effort, not by strategy, but by alignment. People who are meant to walk with you will recognize you without explanation. Opportunities that are aligned will come with confirmation, not confusion. Resources that support your purpose will arrive with timing that makes sense, not pressure that creates stress. This is the beginning of flow. Not a passive flow, but a responsive one, where what you carry internally begins to shape what appears externally. And this is where many realize something they did not expect, that the life they once thought they wanted no longer fits the person they have become. And instead of chasing what they imagined, before they begin to step into something far greater, something they could not have fully understood until they became who they are now. You are stepping into that realization. And with it comes a deeper level of surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up control out of weakness, but surrender in the sense of trusting what is unfolding without needing to control every detail. Because the more you align, the less you need to force. The more you trust, the less you need to question. The more you become, the less you need to prove. And in that space, everything begins to shift. But there is still one final transition that must take place, because stepping into your inheritance is not complete until you fully accept what it requires of you and what it will ask you to release for good. And this is where everything becomes undeniable, chosen one, because there comes a point where you can no longer carry both your past identity and your true identity at the same time. One must be released, not gradually, not partially, but completely. Because what you're stepping into cannot coexist with what you were taught to believe about yourself. Anointed one, there are still traces of the old version of you that may try to resurface in quiet moments. Not in obvious ways, but in subtle thoughts. The urge to shrink when you should stand tall, the instinct to question when you should move forward, the temptation to settle when you know you are meant for more. And this is the final threshold, not a test of ability, but a decision of identity. Because at this level, the question is no longer, are you ready? It is, will you fully accept who you are? You have already been prepared. You have already been refined. You have already been positioned. Now you must embody. This is where your life begins to reflect your identity without effort. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you are no longer divided within yourself. You move with clarity, you speak with authority, you decide without hesitation, and the world begins to respond accordingly. Because when there is no contradiction within you, there is no confusion around you. This is what it means to step into your royal bloodline. Not a title, not a concept, but a way of being. You no longer seek permission to exist as who you are. You no longer adjust your presence to be accepted. You no longer explain your worth to those who cannot recognize it. You simply are. And in that being, everything aligns. This is where divine provision begins to move with consistency. Not in bursts, not in unpredictable moments, but in a steady flow that matches your alignment. What you need meets you. What you carry multiplies. What you release makes space for what is greater. And what once felt distant now feels natural. Because you are no longer chasing your inheritance. You are standing in it. You will begin to notice how things settle into place. Not forced, not rushed, but established. Your environment begins to reflect your clarity. Your connections begin to reflect your identity. Your opportunities begin to reflect your alignment. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17 speaks of becoming a new creation, and what you are experiencing now is not a surface level change, but a complete transformation of how you exist. The old patterns no longer define you. The old limitations no longer hold you. The old identity no longer speaks louder than your truth. You have crossed that threshold. And with that crossing comes a level of peace that does not depend on circumstances, a knowing that does not require validation, a stability that cannot be shaken by external shifts. Because what you are standing on now is not temporary. It is who you are. There may still be moments of adjustment, moments where you are integrating this new level of identity into your daily life. But those moments are no longer filled with confusion. They are filled with awareness. You recognize what is happening. You understand the shift. You trust the process. And because of that, you move forward without resistance. This is where fear loses its influence. Not because challenges disappear, but because you no longer interpret them as threats. You see them as confirmations that you are moving in the direction that requires growth. You no longer step back when something feels unfamiliar. You step in. Because you understand now that unfamiliar does not mean misaligned. It means expanded. And this expansion is not random, it is purposeful. Everything that is opening in your life now carries intention. Everything that is being removed carries reason. Everything that is being revealed carries direction. You are no longer navigating blindly. You are moving with awareness. And in that awareness, you begin to realize something that changes everything. You were never separated from your inheritance. You were being prepared to recognize it. Nothing was taken from you. Nothing was lost. Everything was hidden until you were ready to carry it. And now you are no longer searching for where you belong. You are no longer asking who you are. You are no longer waiting for confirmation. You have become the confirmation. You are the evidence of what was always within you. You are the fulfillment of what was always placed inside you. And as you stand in that truth, chosen one, there is nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, nothing left to question. Only one thing remains: to walk forward fully as who you have now remembered yourself to be. Chosen one, this is your moment of alignment, your Kairos time, where what was spoken over your life begins to take form without striving. You are not waiting anymore, you are standing in it. Anointed one, what heaven has prepared for you is already in motion. Paths are being cleared, doors are being positioned, and what once felt delayed is now quietly moving into place. You may not see all of it yet, but you will feel it, a peace that settles deeper, a confidence that no longer wavers, a knowing that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Receive this now. You are covered, you are guided, and what belongs to you will not pass you by. Walk forward with steadiness, not fear. Remain aligned, remain present, and trust the timing that is unfolding around you. Because what is coming will not require you to force it. It will recognize you. If this word has settled in your spirit, simply write Amen in the comments as your confirmation of alignment. And if you feel led to stay connected to what is being released in this season, subscribe so you do not miss what is meant for your journey. If this message has strengthened you, you can also support this mission through a small offering, helping these words reach others who are being called. Chosen one. You were never ordinary. Now walk as one who remembers.